This is AV SuperFriends Perspectives, a collection of interviews, discussions, and presentations from conferences, trade shows, and events that just don't fit either of the other two shows. Some are long, some are short, but they'll all have valuable insights, useful information, or just good conversation with thought leaders and subject matter experts. And now, the AV SuperFriends.
All right, day 3. It has been a long slog for some of us and a medium slog for the rest of us. But we're starting Friday, bleary-eyed, worn out, exhausted, probably, at least in my case, frustrated. We haven't seen as much as we wanted to see and do as much as we wanted to do, but stretched thin. What did we see yesterday? What are we looking for today?
Well, we saw a planar, curved, IR touch direct view LED wall. It's kind of random, but I know we were discussing the walls that have built-in Android, and this one does not have that. So that was interesting. It's all based upon IR touch. Multiple points. It works pretty well. You just it's got a USB right on it.
It's curved?
It's curved.
It's an IR?
Over at planar. It's IR.
How is it curved IR?
Yeah, that's weird.
Go check it out. It's legit.
How are they bending light like that?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's one thing.
With it, it's running on an Intel, just a computer and a USB connection. That's that.
So there's seriously no underlying menu. There's no Android ties in. Okay.
Well, that's what they're saying. That's what the claim is. I had to go over there because I got a lead for something else for my business and talk with some guys about it. And I was like, well, that's super interesting. I don't have an application for it right now, but it's good to know that it's there. And it was curved inward, a slight curve, right?
How big was it?
It was bigger than this. Bigger than 6 foot wide.
I guess I'm wondering what's the point of a curved video wall. And I guess if you're doing a lobby display or something, but now you have to modify your construction.
Yeah.
And it also limits your viewing angles. So
yeah, it was more of a showpiece. I don't know why you would do a showpiece plus touch.
Was it 21 by 9?
It was way more than that.
Okay.
It was like 57 by 2.
Oh,
or something weird. It was some
signage
custom
thing.
content.
Yeah.
But you can do 16:9 flat with it. Obviously, if you can do curved, I think maybe they were just proving a point they could do curved.
Yeah, it may not be an actual product. It may just be a technology demonstrator or something.
Yeah.
So
maybe.
Yeah, and I have noticed a lot more LEDs around, but more specifically, and I think this is a burgeoning market that we're starting to see a lot of unusual players get into, a lot of, for lack of a better term, no-name brands and things, but in the all-in-one displays, where they're coming out, and they all have roughly the same size because it's based on the same manufacturer and the same pixel pitch to make a 1080p or 4K, but it's all like 110, 130, 165, and then like, is it 220?
220.
Something like that.
All this stuff comes from China. It's all the same. And I was talking to the guy about it, and he says it's a process of, who gets the premium product that's not damaged or whatever. So these guys pay higher money for a higher regulation of the product, but it all comes from the same spot. So if you're buying this stuff from like a no-name company, they're getting like the leave-ins, which might be fine, but they might not be as authorized or certified as some of the more expensive stuff. So that's what it comes down to.
As long as the price comes down, I'm all game. Because I got spaces I really want to do that in, but the budget is still not quite there. It's close. Yeah. It's getting real close at this point.
Yeah, they're coming down.
Yeah, well, they're coming down, especially the no-name brands. The name brands, you can get a Samsung or an LG, ViewSonic, brands that you recognize for right around $30,000 to $32,000.
Yep.
But it's the no-name ones that are really, and to your point, Justin, they're all made in the same factory. And they're all using the same processor, same boards, all that stuff. The no-name ones are coming in, in the low to mid-20s.
Yeah.
Which is...
You can risk it and buy one and see what happens.
But that's interesting from the standpoint of a standard classroom, your 30, 40, 50 classroom size projection screen. In the right application, you could right now today, you could put an LED direct view all-in-one display in there. And the other advantage of the all-in-ones, for those of you who don't know what I mean by that, and you can look them up, and some of them actually call it straight up their all-in-one, is what they call it, or an AIO. LED video walls are different than LCD video walls. LCD video walls are built out of existing single displays, with a few exceptions. The what was it? The Barco Cube, and there's a couple other ones like that. I'm sorry, the Christie Cube and a couple others. But are pretty much, for lack of a better term, they're standard sized, almost off-the-shelf displays, small bezels or zero bezels, that sort of thing, that you assemble together. So this is made out of usually 55, oddly enough, seems to be the most common size, but a bunch of 55-inch displays makes up your bigger video wall. In LED, they're much smaller panels that make up cabinets, and those cabinets assemble together to make your standard size. But what that means is you can customize the size and the resolution for any application, which sounds great, but you also have to have processors to drive it. You have to have the appropriate power modules and things, so it gets much more complex. And it makes sense in an environment like a corporate lobby or a showcase space on campus, maybe your welcome center or something. Your alumni center has one of those scoreboards and things like that. But as far as the way we deploy AV, standard kind of off-the-shelf parts, the all-in-ones are pretty interesting because they're already pre-assembled, these panels, into small cabinets, and the cabinets connected together, and usually it's 3 or 4 all kind of lagged together. They come kind of partially assembled, but they have all the processing on board, they have all the power supplies on board, and so you basically need 1 or 2, usually at this point even the smaller ones, but the newer ones, standard 110 or 120 AC circuits. You don't need 220 anymore, which is interesting, and a big savings. Some of them still need multiple, which is the way they're doing it, which I'm much more amenable to that, requiring 2 or even 3 110 circuits than a couple of 220s, which is much more much more expensive to get installed, and not something we have in every place on campus. But then at the end of the day, they end up with a couple of power cables, a LAN cable, a serial connection, and a couple of HDMI inputs, like a standard kind of display. Yeah. And that makes integration and design and support way easier than building out custom crazy LED walls. So I think there's a real growth market there in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I mean, I first saw these all-in-ones in like 2017, 2018 maybe. I remember one from LG for the longest time had been around, but it was like $80,000 or $90,000, and they've come way down. And it really makes you think that what could we possibly do in the right space for the right project to say, hey, instead of a projector, especially if you figure the installation of a screen, the projector, the mount, the infrastructure, all that, you might be at the $6,000, $8,000, $10,000 range already, and say, hey, for an extra $15,000, we can really dial this space up to 11.
I've got a couple of tiered classrooms where the front of the room has an exceptionally tall ceiling. That these are making sense because
like above the marker board.
Above the marker board, I've got 15 feet, probably, maybe more.
Just blank wall.
Just blank wall,
yeah,
and I've got windows on one side, so I'm already having to really get a powerful projector in there. Yep. This makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah. And also, I think it's almost I was going to say bang for your buck. That's the wrong term, but it's a wow factor. People come into if you refresh the classroom and you do it all right, and it's all modern, whatever. To your point, you put in big bright projectors. People are going to walk in and be like, oh, it's the same. You put in 2 LED displays up there. People walk in, whoa, check that out.
Exactly, yeah. Because even though the projectors are spec'd right, they still just look like normal projectors because it's a big screen on a bright room.
Right.
The one thing I've had several people stop me because they knew I was looking for that AI-driven camera type scenario. And there's not a lot of that on the show floor. But what I keep finding out is more and more of the really cool, innovative stuff is in the private rooms that you have to know somebody to get to.
Right, yeah.
And so, like in the past, I've been able to do that, but where I've been so busy, I haven't had a chance to schedule those or anything else. So it's just kind of, it's becoming more evident that a lot of the truly innovative stuff that we've said we don't see, it's here. It's just not in the general audience pool anymore.
And that's often what they use those spaces for, is to show up something they're working on or some ideas. So that might be like, here's a new model camera. This is a prototype. We only have 2 of them. Yeah. It does this and this. Is that
worth it?
Yeah, is that worth it?
Should we put it to production?
Is it of interest to you?
Exactly. So if you are a listener who this is your first time at InfoComm, or you're not that, you don't come all the time, make those connections. Try to get in those spaces because that's where you're going to see some of the new stuff.
especially from the big manufacturers. Your Sony and Panasonic and Epson and those who have massive engineering facilities. They've got teams of engineers that you will never see on the show floor that are back there manning a big room, showing off 8 or 10 or 12 things, some which may ship next year,
and some
year
will
after,
never ship,
and some that will never ever ship.
Yeah,
I mean, we saw one. Was it last year? The Panasonic was showing off some stuff there that interesting. Still has not shipped. I think it's still a product that they are looking at doing, but it's not out yet. Maybe later this year, coming next, whatever, but those life cycles are longer than one might imagine. So
I've also heard rumors that in some of those spaces and some of the AI stuff that's on the floor, the AI is some guy named Al in the background running it on a camera or on a control system.
Guy's sitting there driving it. So let's see. So we talked about AI stuff. We saw a lot of cloud connected stuff yesterday. I think there's going to be a lot of that. What are other trends we're seeing, or things that we didn't, things that we expected we'd see but didn't?
Well, I did not expect to see a kinetic display malfunction on the show floor.
Yeah, talk about that.
I kind of expect those to break at some point.
Well,
moving
not on the show
parts are
floor,
bad.
but at some point. So as you're on the show floor, you kind of walk through, especially from the higher education standpoint. You're like, wow, that's cool, but man, if I had a lot of those, that would suck because of support, right? And so we're walking by this kinetic display.
Back up and tell people what a kinetic display is.
Oh, well, okay, kinetic display. So if you think of a direct view LED wall, the little panels, maybe 6x6 or 8x8, they would move in and out and make shapes. So as you display something, maybe you want to, I think, for instance, a giraffe showed up on the display, so it pushed the giraffe out a little bit more than the sunset behind it. It's just a kind of a cool wow factor. You could probably see something in this, like a Vegas hotel or something like that. So we're walking by, and everybody's looking up at it because it's cool, but not because it's cool at that moment. Everybody's taking pictures of it and kind of laughing and giggling and talking amongst themselves because one of the cubes is stuck. And it's stuck outward.
Yeah.
And as it's going through its kinetic motion, you can obviously tell, like, all the conversations were like, yep, time to get the lift out. Oh, what are we going to do about this? And all the jokes were starting because everybody's like, yeah, that's nice, but I don't want that in my facility.
I mean, think about it. We are hesitant to put a projector lift in a room.
Right.
Because they always fail.
This thing has, if it's 10 cubes wide and 30 cubes down, that's 300 moving parts. That would be like an entire building of projector lifts.
Yeah,
you
this
would never
thing
do
was
that.
like 20 feet thick, too, right? I don't know what the mechanism is.
Who was it?
behind
Was it LG?
Yeah, LG.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Well, I want to go by and look at it.
Yeah.
Let's see if they fixed it last night.
Maybe
Maybe
if
the
they
whole
fixed it.
team out there trying to redo it.
Because you're right. You raise a good point there. I mean, for a wow factor, for a technology demonstrator, it makes sense. Maybe at a big corporate lobby, at a your alumni center, an amusement park or something like that, a science center, museum. But if we put one of those in on campus, if we had a reason for that with moving parts, what happens in 6 or 7 years when it starts dying? So
what happens in 3 days in the middle of a conference when it starts dying?
I suspect that had to do with the travel. They probably flew that one in from Korea.
Now that
and
I'm
they were
thinking
building
about it, I think this show was the show of support tickets. Because as I walked around, I think it was yesterday, I saw a guy standing on top of an 8-foot ladder trying to work on a direct view LED wall and working on power and low voltage stuff. And everyone was taking pictures of him standing on the very top plastic part of a ladder in front of the entire show floor.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought that was rather interesting.
That's a bad look.
That's a very bad look with all the union stuff happening everywhere. And
he got fined.
who knows what, but was
it a manufacturer person?
Yeah, he was not logalized. He did not have any logos.
Oh, okay.
That's what I meant by that.
Could he have been somebody from the convention center? Could he have been somebody from one of the local trades?
It could have been a power issue that they called the union back in. It could have been one of the manufacturers there.
Yep.
But you got to figure they had a ladder. So I don't know if
you don't travel with a ladder.
They just drug that out of their storage from the booth.
You check your travel ladder?
I check my ladder, yeah. It's hard to fit it in the overhead.
We're seeing a lot of things malfunction on the show floor this year, which is I haven't really seen that before. We stuck our 192 stickers on some cameras that said 192.168.
I've seen several 192 IP addresses.
What's interesting is it was a Teams camera with a 192 address. So there's that.
Well, for the trade show, but you're right. It is interesting. So that was
because it's not supposed to have that.
Kramer.
That was Kramer.
With
and they have
Teams.
It's a nice feature where there's because I've seen it before on camera receivers and things. You push a button that tells you the IP address. Or you go in the menu and it says that. But this one, it had a little tiny display on the front of the camera to read the current IP address.
I'm still not sure I like that.
Well, it was weird.
I like it from a support standpoint, but that's it.
As long as I can blink it out after I'm done supporting
I
it.
assume you can turn it off or have it display something else, or can it display other messages? Hello, or whatever. But can you
192.fu?
Yeah, could you label the camera? But yeah, we put a 192.fu sticker right there. And they thought it was very funny. So
and they enjoyed it.
Yes,
for some reason.
Yeah, the 192.fu stickers I've noticed from people
are very popular.
They're popular, but some people also cringe at it because they're like, I know what you're saying there, and I tried to explain to a couple people yesterday. It's like, no, it's like 192 fu. It's like kung fu, but for people who do bad networking. So,
my wife did not understand that.
I'm a 192.fu campus.
A lot of us are going to be increasingly 192.fu campuses.
Yeah. Private islands.
That's basically
there's
what
more
that is.
Zero trust rolling out.
Yeah.
Who was telling me about zero trust yesterday?
Teddy. Teddy's going to Zero Trust.
Teddy Murphy, University of Pikeville, right?
Yep.
He said he got an email, was it yesterday or right before he left or something like that?
3 days before he came here, they told him to start thinking about moving to Zero Trust.
That's hilarious.
And I know Texas State, we're talking to Atkins Fleming last night, and he said the same sort of thing. They have this like roadmap that their new CIOs put together for like kind of like, here's our strategic plan for the next couple of years. And under networking, he put in that he wants to be Zero Trust enabled, or Zero Trust compliant, I suppose, like in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And so that's 2 or 3 years to go back and fix everything on your campus, and the quick fix for that is islands.
Which I was talking with James King, and James King keeps pushing that Zero Trust is not a bad thing, and I completely agree. Zero Trust by itself...
It's not a bad thing, but you can't achieve it, really, where we're at today.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
If it's as part of the design in the building when it was built, it's absolutely fabulous. And if the building is new with lots of big conduits that you can get the cables where you need it, it's great. Most of our universities were built a long freaking time ago.
Well, it's not only that, but it's the cabling, it's the infrastructure, it's the manufacturers providing updates for their equipment and security.
Well, as long as you get certified, that gets easier.
Yeah, but that's not going to happen with all manufacturers.
Well, what about older stuff out there? So in the case of, say, like Texas State or Pikeville, where they're saying we're going to move to this in our existing infrastructure, it's like, well, that display I bought 2 or 3 years ago.
How much money you got?
Yeah, it's an 8-year process.
And you may have to go an entire refresh cycle. And is that now going to potentially inform design decisions? Oh, I'd like to buy this model projector, this model DSP. Oh, it doesn't support the required or the requisite, how to phrase this, it doesn't support the necessary requirements to be fully Zero Trust friendly, because maybe it won't recognize host names, or it only will take an IP address.
Do we know what those requirements will be in 4 years?
No.
That's my concern. That's why private islands, as much as it's kind of Mark would be yelling at me right now, at least now I know that equipment I buy will last the entire replacement cycle.
Well, and that's the advantage of something like that. And it's not a great model, but if you have, say, a control processor or even a small managed network switch that can serve as that bridge between a private network and your enterprise Zero Trust network, you could have the devices that are Zero Trust friendly exposed to that network, and the devices that aren't behind your control. But again, that's not an ideal model.
It's not, but I think that's going to be the model a lot of us go to just for that replacement cycle budget control.
Yep. Well, and you think about it again, at the end of the day, from our perspective within higher education, we're here for the faculty, staff, and students. But the faculty and student teaching and learning experience, they don't care what Zero Trust means. They don't care how things are set up. They just want to go in and have something work.
Yep.
And if that means it's on an island, they don't care. If that means, it's fully Zero Trust enabled, because you watch, CIOs are going to blast that out on their campus, and you're like, your average physics professor is going to be like, I don't know what that means.
Who cares?
I don't care. Does the thing work? Can I go in there and teach my class? Okay, leave me alone. Can I fire up Zoom or Teams? Can I get the right projector going and all that? Then okay, I'm fine. They're more concerned, that USB-C cable that's there, can I plug that in, and does it work with my device the way I think it should?
Yep.
Which, by the way, I have noticed we have seen a lot of USB-C, and a lot of them, I think we're seeing after it's been almost 2016, 17, they first started showing up, but call it a good 5 or 6 years of people really trying to do USB-C that are now doing ones with all the protocols, with DisplayPort alt mode, with all that stuff. Again, there's still no hard and fast way to look at one and know what it's going to do.
I'm still, if there's anything here I have cold feet about, it's going fully on board with USB-C.
Oh, yeah, no.
That's the thing I'm waiting for one of you all to do and find the right solution, and then I'll look at it after that.
I'm not going to go fully on board with USB-C unless I absolutely have to.
I've got people asking for it, but I'm just I don't know if it's going to work all the time, and I don't want to cause
So I've pushed back on it because I'll provide, here's an HDMI cable with a USB-C adapter, but again, it's not providing charging, it's not providing additional features. That's fine. If somebody really demands that, hey, we're doing the new building, we want the business school to all be USB-C for that, that's fine, but I'm going to cheat and do it as the USB-C that immediately then gets converted under the table to, standard protocols of HDMI with power and all the fun stuff there.
And I've tried,
which again is not the great way to do it.
USB-C switchers are so much smaller and more efficient.
Well, and I've tried the dock solution like that, but I got a new laptop. My old dock doesn't work anymore.
Really?
Yeah, and it was Dell to Dell. My old Dell dock worked fine with my old Dell laptop. My new one doesn't. So I'm concerned. Does every laptop work the same?
Well, that's not true.
Exactly, and so that's.
Even with adapters, I still find the most reliable way for me to provide USB-C connections in classrooms, and it works, I would say, 99% of the time. If there's been a few outliers. It even works with iPhones, Android phones, iPads, Galaxy Tabs, all that stuff. I provide 2 adapters. Here's the, for lack of a better term, the generic one. I use a StarTech, and it works fine. And then here's the Apple one. And those are 2 USB-C adapters. They go to the same HDMI cable that allows them to plug in whatever device they brought in and get picture and sound to the system. And that does work. Like I said, there's been a handful of outliers every now and then where something's not coming up or whatever. But that's not a great solution. It's ugly, it's clunky, and it's not elegant and not the promise of USB-C. But Larry, to your point, even if we get one working and we go test our brand new building, we test all 40 rooms and it all works great, USB-C, whatever, guaranteed that first professor to come in with their brand new
next day it won't.
Yeah, Lenovo, Hitachi, Toshiba, Apple, whatever it is, it ain't going to work.
And they're going to at some point ask, I want to use that mic and that camera on my laptop.
Well, good point. That's the added wrinkle with USB-C is the assumption that you're getting all the USB connections.
Yeah,
and yes, there are ways to do it, and I can do that now, leveraging QSys to do that, but it's not a thing I'm providing because I don't want to provide what they call BYOM, right? Where you're
bring your own meeting.
Bring your own meeting by driving from your device, but that's an added support nightmare I don't want to deal with. So, at least on my campus, we put a computer in every classroom. We tell people, use the computer in the room to do all the connections, and then you can just join that same session if you want to share stuff from your screen, and that works fine. But you're right. You're going to have that new building. It's going to be all USB-C. Something's going to go wrong, and then they're going to want the cameras and mics and all that stuff on the USB because why wouldn't it be there? And yes, there's people yelling at their car stereos right now. Yes, there are many, many, many ways to do it, most of which involving some sort of immediate little breakout conversion switcher box right below the lectern.
We know how to do it. I just don't trust it yet.
Yeah.
And do we want to complicate our signal flow to now we're troubleshooting somebody's laptop? We've got to remember, that's right, this goes to that little USB switcher down below where it picks up the different USB bridges and all that. It's just,
I think that would be too. If we had, and we're moving to this at my campus to where that every department is given the exact same laptop for their instructors. If we're moving to that, I might consider it more. But right now, it's just too many different models, too many different variables.
Yeah. But there is a lot of USB-C here, and I like that. I think USB-C slowly but surely seems to be maturing as a, and we use USB-C, USB Type-C, which is simply the connector, but
I know we're wrong there, but
modern USB, let's call it that, it seems to be maturing as a connector, as a protocol, as a cable standard, as a transport standard, but I don't know. It's still really dicey there. So I'm still not comfortable with it as the primary one connector to rule them all. So.
And really, the standard is what it is. It's the maturity of the manufacturers is really what we're talking about
getting
there.
On board, offering exactly, adhering to every aspect of the standard.
Right.
So, all right. Any other last things? So what we're doing today, we're doing our show floor tour of the best stuff we've seen in the Central Hall. I do want to say that the layout here has been terrible between the two different halls. Oh my goodness,
I've barely been to the West Hall.
That's awful. Yeah.
West Hall is basically a bunch of displays, and everything else is here in the Central.
Well, West Hall is still big, and
it's still huge. Projectors and displays.
There's still really a lot of people up there too. I was thinking that it was going to be a ghost town, but no, it was wall to wall people. So. Yeah. But just the transit time, if you're not careful, if you need to go from the far eastern side of the Central Hall to the far north side of the West Hall, that's a good 25-minute walk straight through.
Yep.
And yes, there's the little Tesla loop thing you could take and all that.
It's not that much faster.
But no, that might save you 2 or 3 minutes because you got to go down there, you got to wait your turn.
Wait for it.
You got to take the ride, which is faster, yes, at like 30 or 40 miles an hour. But then it's not like in the hall; it's out in the parking lot. And you got to walk back in, and it's a whole thing. So, I mean, it's a lot of walking, but I will say the one thing I did see at the Panasonic booth in the West Hall, they had a demo of the Igloo system, which is their Igloo is a company that does like visualization spaces and things. And what I liked about what they did over there was they did not go. Usually, when you see visualization, somebody goes all out and builds this like $250,000 monstrosity. They had 3 walls, just square walls, just straight up and down walls. They were not curved. It was a standard, like an alcove in a room, 3 sides of a square. They had 3 projectors with short throw lenses, and they had, the computer driving it, and that was it. And from a standpoint of visualization, it was actually like, this is actually quite achievable for a low budget in a lot of spaces. And yes, it's not curved, it's not 360, it's none of that, but does it get you 90% of the way there for probably a significant savings cost? Yes, I would argue it does. And it was an interesting demo. So if anyone has a chance, I would certainly swing by there and take a look at that.
I plan on swinging to the West Hall today after our show at Biamp.
Oh, there you go.
Well, that's right. And we're recording live at Biamp. Going to do our wrap-up show there with the fine folks from Biamp to finish out Friday. So I guess that's
Sleepy Friday.
Yeah,
we're almost there, guys.
good gravy,
man.
You've been here a week.
I've been here a week.
I only got here on Sunday, so I've only been here 6 days so far.
I've averaged about 4 to 5 hours of sleep a night. The good news is I've only averaged about 1 drink a night, so I'm proud of myself about that. But I've averaged a whole hell of a lot more on winnings per night. That's for damn sure.
Justin is now with the...
Yeah, he's retiring on his way back.
We won again last night, dude.
Did you and Ed go out and do more craps?
Me and Ed, yeah.
All right.
We did it again.
Justin is really becoming the amateur pro craps player.
They were chanting, roller, roller, roller.
Nice.
It was a good time.
All right, well. Any last thoughts from you guys?
We need craps tables on the show floor.
At Northwest Mat.
All right, Northwest Mat. Wait, where's that? Where are we? Who is this?
That's at Boise.
It's somewhere that takes forever to get to.
Yeah, we don't.
For us.
All right, we'll cut it there. We'll be back. Look for get this recording out. Look for more from us this week and next. Thanks, everybody.
Well, that wraps up another episode of AV SuperFriends Perspectives. If you have a perspective to share, you can contact us with questions, topic ideas, or general complaints at mailbag@avsuperfriends.com.
Nice work, everyone. Sharp broadcast. Really good. Everyone on the floor as well. Really a lot of hustle. I liked it.
The opinions expressed by the AV SuperFriends are solely those of the individuals and do not represent their respective institutions, organizations, companies, or clients.